Hello, ladies. Yeah, just call me Esteliz. And I've been a PA for 19 years. And so passionate about nutrition that I try all kinds of things, including the high protein and low carb diet and CrossFit with my husband. And it was great for about a year or two. And then all of a sudden, we started getting really sick. I've had to have injections like every 3 weeks. And I'm like, I can't be injecting myself every 3 weeks for the rest of my life. So I'm like, there is something wrong with this diet. I'm going back to school. Actually, God told me to go back to school, and I'm like, really? I don't want to go back to more school, but all right, I'll do it. And so got my doctorate where I studied holistic nutrition as part of my doctorate, as well as nutrigenomics, how nutrition affects genetics, and vice versa. So a lot of neat things that I discovered that really opened my eyes, and now I just want to share with everybody because it's not found in mainstream media. So, next slide, please. Disclaimer: presentation is meant to be educational and not intended to replace your healthcare provider's diagnosis and treatment plan. Also, another disclaimer is that when I've done this presentation before, a lot of people get kind of depressed by the middle of it, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel. So bear with me, okay? So we're going to talk about function of nutrients, the good, the bad, the ugly, vegetables, fruits, whole grains, nuts and seeds, legumes, meat, and bonus boosters. There's about 7 to 8 slides. I'm going to zoom through a lot of things, and feel free to take pictures if you want to take a picture. And go ahead, next slide, please. So this is the summary. Go ahead and take a picture of this one. This is basically what you want to know about and hopefully implement into your daily routines. So we're supposed to eat 4 cups of vegetables a day, 4 cups of fruits a day, a cup and a half of whole grains, a quarter cup of nuts and seeds, especially flax seeds, actually, and or chia seeds or hemp seeds. And legumes, a cup and a half to 3 cups of beans, depending if you're a vegan or not a vegan. And then avoid animal products, processed foods, and oils as much as possible. Otherwise, consume them with cruciferous vegetables and lots of fibers, and I'll explain that in a little while. So I also eat animal products. Not a vegan, but I'll tell you how we can do that so that we can still maintain our health. And then bonus boosters like teas and spices, and yeah. And then I also have Instagram, Facebook page, although lately I haven't been on making videos, but they will come eventually. But there are like recipes in there, explanations of the things that I'm going to talk about today as well. You'll find those videos there too. Next slide, please. Testimonies. I've had patients with tics that no longer have tics by just by changing their nutrition and not having to go on medicine at all with those things. Patients with seizures. I've had patients with weight loss as well, if that's their target, although a lot of times that becomes more of a side effect because of health and eating healthier. I had a patient that lost 32 pounds recently in 6 months, and her response was, but I'm eating more. I'm like, yes, we don't have to eat less. And pulmonary nodules gone from cancer patients, things like that. ADHD, mental health, diabetes controlled with just food, and or getting off of medication. So lots of good things happening. I've had a patient with chronic rashes that's been there for years and now gone from the nutrition, and as well as chronic abdominal pain and headaches that are now gone because of nutrition. Next slide, please. All right, so in our lifetime, we're going to eat about 25 tons of food. That's a lot of food. So you can see why it's either going to help us or hurt us. And so it's very important to choose wisely and eat those 5 food groups that I've mentioned before. And every group represents certain benefits in particular, although a lot overlap as well. So that's kind of neat. Whenever you feel like, oh, I don't want to eat this today, at least you'll get some of those benefits from other plants. Next slide. So genetic variances, a lot of people say, well, it's in my genes, but it doesn't have to be occurring in your life, even if it's in your genes, right? 70% nutrition, 30% genetics. For example, there is what's called the Nigerian paradox. They have the genes that are most likely to get Alzheimer's, but they are actually the least amount of people with Alzheimer's, more likely because they eat a lot more grains and vegetables than meat. I'm also genetically supposed to look older than my age. I'm 45 years old, but because of nutrition, it has helped me a lot with staying younger. Go ahead, next slide, please. So telomeres, speaking of which, telomeres are like the ends of your shoelaces, and they keep your shoelaces from fraying. And so telomeres are at the end of your chromosomes, and they keep your chromosomes from fraying. And the longer they are, the less likely you are going to have any chronic illness like diabetes and things like that. So, if how do we make them long? So we have to eat all these plants, especially plants that have like vitamin B's in there. Omega-3s is another one. And if we're going to choose any multivitamins, you have to make sure that they have the A, B, all different kinds of B, C, D, E, and then the omega-3s as well. Women who take multivitamins have actually 5% longer telomeres. So the longer the telomeres are, the younger your body is. So just because we age doesn't mean our body has to. Oxidative stress. So we hear a lot of the word antioxidants. What is that? So they help us detox the free radicals or oxidative stress. And what is that? So we breathe in oxygen, and then the oxygen picks up electrons, but they have to be used up electrons, not fully charged electrons. It's like the car battery versus a used up battery that a remote control will work on. But if you put a car battery in a remote control, that's probably going to cause wreak havoc, right? And so it's really important that they only pick up used up electrons. Otherwise, it will cause damages to our cells and our DNAs. And so that's where oxidative stress comes from. That's what oxidative stress is, or free radicals is another word for that. And so antioxidants, they help our superoxide dismutase with detoxifying those free radicals. And they detoxify 1 million free radicals per second. That's a lot. That means we need a lot of antioxidants. So antioxidants is really, really important. And all the plants and teas and spices, they have tons of antioxidants. So the more we put in our body, the more we power up our body and prevent cellular damage or DNA damage, which then prevents a lot of chronic illnesses as well. And the other thing about that one was the antioxidants. So we can use up a lot of antioxidants within 2 hours of having a cold or stress from work or insomnia, and it will take 3 days for us just to make it up. So another reason why we need to really boost up. So that's where teas come in and spices come in. Use tons of spices in your food, and drink lots of tea. And then as far as like AGEs, so other toxic things that are in our food. So AGEs are when fats and proteins link up with sugar and causes this toxic issue for us. Meats, when we heat them up, they cause AGEs as well, and then that can cause organ damages or organ problems, and then also high cholesterol as well. Next slide. So to prevent AGEs, we've got B1 and B6, among other things, but those are key nutrients for us. And so, again, very important to eat plants that would have B6 and B1 in them as well. Next slide. Another problem that we can have is leaky gut. You hear that word a lot. So we have tight junctions between our cells in our stomach, intestines, and they are allowing the good things in and then preventing the bad things from going into our bloodstream from our intestines. But if we have a breakage in the tight junction, then we're allowing bad things into our bloodstream, and that causes problems, including like autoimmune issues or allergy reactions, things like that. Next slide. Another big issue, this is probably one of the big ones, um, omega-6 pathway versus omega-3 pathways. So omega-6 pathways is the inflammatory side of things. So it's very important because we have to fight off the bad things, right? And so the inflammatory pathway is important, but we have to be able to turn them off. And that's a huge problem here in the US because we don't ever turn them off. And we need the omega-3s as the anti-inflammatory pathway. So we have so much omega-6s in our foods. They're in everything, but especially processed foods, oils, and animal products, including cheese, dairy, and eggs. So it's very important that we turn them off. Anti-inflammatory, the omega-3s. And omega-3s, the most foods that have the most of them would be flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds, and then of course you've got the salmon as well. But my three favorites would be the flax seeds, chia seeds, and then the hemp seeds as well. So very important. Otherwise, if we have constant inflammation, this is really where it leads to a lot of autoimmune issues, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease. You think of it, you name it, it's going to go through constant inflammation. Next slide. Okay, this is what a typical cell structure. It's actually more complicated than that. But you can see there's so many things that are working in our cells that they have to work well. If one thing is wrong, then of course, it's going to stop you from doing the things that it needs to do. So for example, even the cell membrane itself, it's like a little gate. It's fat soluble, and inside outside would be water soluble. So it's a gate that allows nutrients in, and they take toxins out. Now, if there's a problem with that structure, then we have an issue of allowing communications with the hormones, or for example, insulin. Insulin attaches to the cell membrane, and then the cell goes, okay, let me bring your message down to the cells, and there's a kinase network that goes to the nucleus, and then that will then have the response of like, okay, let's get that sugar to put in the mitochondria. Has to go all that process towards the cell membrane again, and then down to the mitochondria. If there's any one thing wrong with that, forget making energy, right? That's going to turn into fats in our bodies, and then you're just tired. So very important that the cell structure works very well. The cell membrane, so that omega-3s we were just talking about, that keeps your cell membrane intact as well. So another reason why we should, consume a lot of omega-3s as well. Next slide. Mitochondria. Mitochondria in itself, just making energy, has a lot of process as well. And so there's many things in there that's important. So vegetables, the NADs from the vegetables would be very important, all the way to green leafy vegetables, because chlorophyll helps make CoQ10, which then allows us to make ATP, so our energy. We are supposed to have AA batteries worth of energy for every cell. So there's about 30 trillion AA batteries. Imagine that at any given moment. And so we're constantly making energy as well. So another thing that we need to supply the nutrients so that we can be constantly making energy. Next slide. All right, so check out CDC. They actually have information on the toxins that are in our body, even like umbilical cords will have tons of pesticides and things already in the baby's blood before even they're born. Quite interesting. So again, we need to power up because we want to make sure we're putting in the nutrients to maximize our healthy lifestyle. All right, next slide. So one hot dog has as much nitrosamines and nitrosamides as 4 cigarettes, and I was so devastated because that's one of my favorite foods. So now I don't hardly eat it anymore. But I do get maybe 4 of them. But the good news is mustard is something that can detox the hot dog. So put a lot of mustard in there, okay? But yeah, so nitrosamines and nitrosamines are found in meats as well, and so very important, It's really when it gets to your stomach that nitrates combine with amines and amides and then become toxic for us. So eating them with foods that have vitamin C in there and antioxidants will help a lot with preventing that combination to happen in your stomach. So there's ways of eating these things and preventing a lot of the toxicity to our body. Next slide. Heterocyclines, another toxin that is made in meat, especially when we heat them up over 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. So they did a study that people who eat broccoli and Brussels sprouts first and then the meat had absorbed significantly less heterocyclic amines than those who didn't eat those broccoli and Brussels sprouts. So see, there's hope. And next slide, please. Okay, so arachidonic acid, that's part of that omega-6 pathway that I was talking about earlier with inflammation. And so that's why they are linked to a lot of like cancers, a lot of like inflammatory issues as far as meat are concerned or any animal products. So unfortunately, animal products are probably one of the most toxic things that we eat, and doing the high protein, low carb diet is really hurting us a lot. And next slide. Benefits of meat that plants would not have would be B12. The only plants that I know have B12 would be a properly grown shiitake mushrooms. They would have B12 and vitamin D in there, but otherwise, meats have the B12. You used to be in the water, but then now with all the wastewater cleaning system, B12 is no longer in our water. So limit to 1 palm size a day as far as meat. They will give you like around 40 grams of protein already. Amount of protein that you need, unless you're working out 3 to 5 hours straight per day, then it only should be 0.8 gram per kilogram. All right, we don't need 1.2 grams per kilogram like a lot of people are saying. It's just 0.8 gram per kilogram, and that amount is very protective of your kidneys. That's a big one that we need to be mindful of, is that eating too much animal proteins is really hurtful to our kidneys. Okay, so eat cruciferous vegetables right before eating the meat to detox the meat as much as possible. Use spices like oregano, basil, turmeric to detox the meat as well. And again, blocking the conversion of nitrosamines and nitrosamides in the stomach. And then, as much as possible, cook your meat in water. So soups are better than grilling or frying, things like that. And then low temperatures, less than 212 degrees Fahrenheit. Next slide. Okay, American diet is a leading cause of death, and lack of vegetables is the 5th dietary risk factor close to processed meat consumption. If we eat fruits and vegetables, we can save 110,000 lives and $32 billion worth of hospital costs, things like that. Addition of 2 different fruits and veggies per week decreases type 2 diabetes risk by 8%, and if 50% of U.S. population increase their fruit and vegetables intake by 1 serving a day, then we can avoid 20,000 cancer cases, but then 10 new cancer cases from pesticides, so 19,990. Next slide, please. So cruciferous vegetables, what are those? Those are broccoli, cauliflower, kale, cabbages, arugula, Brussels sprouts, watercress, turnips, bok choy, collard green, mustard green, and radishes. I probably say this about 20 times a day to all my patients because it's that important. I want to make sure that everybody knows that cruciferous vegetables are really, really important to eat every single day because they make something called sulforaphane. And sulforaphane is something that helps the liver make glutathione and metallothionein. Okay, these are our detoxers. They help make toxins more water soluble so that we can pee and poo them out. A lot of times toxins that come into our bloodstream, they go into our fat cells and they hold on for dear life, and we cannot get rid of them until we make glutathione and metallothionein to get rid of them. So very, very important. There are people who are gaining a lot of weight, and then they eat nothing and they still gain weight. Why? Because of the toxins that are holding onto fat cells. There's just no way of losing those weight until you lose the toxins. So we have to make sure we detox. Yeah.
Cruciferous vegetables, do they need to be cooked? I thought I had read something about if you eat them raw that they can like take calcium or something from your bones. Can you speak to that?
No, they would actually have calcium themselves, but there is what is that one for the hormones? I'm blanking out. But so the calcium binds into that chemical, right? And so it, it balances itself out, right? There's so many nutrients in there that that work into our body, and but you have it's better to eat them raw than cook them. Um, the sulforaphane, when it's your body, I mean, it's made when it's chewed or chopped. And then once you start cooking them, the enzyme, the morasinase, is not heat resistant, and so it stops making the sulforaphane. But if you leave them raw for 40 minutes before you cook them, then it's okay to cook them afterwards. So what I like to do is buy the already chopped broccoli or chop them in the beginning of the week because who has time to wait 40 minutes, to cook. So I'll chop them in the beginning of the week, and then now by the time you cook them, it's already ready. It's already made. But yeah, so you know, you can nitpick about the nutrients that are in there, but at the same time, there's just so many things in there that are working together, and and then it works out into our body better than you would had you been supplementing. Because even the multivitamins, you wanna take them with fruits or vegetables because there's other nutrients that are lacking for us to be able to absorb them better. Yeah. And then what else? So yeah, these are the cruciferous vegetables. They are very good for cognitive function, for hormones as well. A lot of people say if you have thyroid, don't eat them. Actually, no. It will take 5 pounds for it to be a counteract benefit or harmful to us. It's actually more beneficial if you have a thyroid issue to eat these cruciferous vegetables because it balances out your hormones. Um, and next slide. Yes, the cruciferous. Okay, next slide. Yeah, so lots of benefits with cruciferous vegetables. Again, it protects the eyesight, good for cognitive function, manages type 2 diabetes, reduce nasal allergy inflammation. So we are in the number 2 allergy city. Wichita, Kansas, I think is the number 1, and Dallas is number 2. And so very important to eat a lot of antihistaminic foods, like cruciferous vegetables is one of them. And then treating autism, likely again from the benefits of sulforaphane. They did a study on patients with autism, and those who ate 2 to 3 servings of cruciferous vegetables a day had improved social interaction, their abnormal behavior, and verbal communication within a matter of weeks. Next slide. So again, sulforaphane, you have to wait 40 minutes to just pre-chop them, and then for at the beginning of the week, so then you can use it later if you want to cook it. Next slide. Okay, greens, arugula, beet greens, anything green. The chlorophyll is really important. They bind to carcinogen, and then also the chlorophyll and the sunlight together. They help form ubiquinol. We have something in our mitochondria that is helpful for making ATPs or energy, and that's ubiquinol. Ubiquinol becomes ubiquinone once it's used, and then we have to reactivate it back to ubiquinol. Ubiquinol is also the same as CoQ10, and so it's really important that we have them constantly. Again, we're making a lot of energy, 30 trillion AA batteries worth of energy at any given moment, so it's very important that we get the chlorophylls and then the sunlight as well, and then water as well, and then NADs as well. and then the electrons as well. So very important that we eat the green leafy vegetables also. So as part of those 4 cups of vegetables, I recommend 1 cup, which should be the cruciferous vegetables, and then a cup should be green leafy vegetables. So it can be spinach, which is not a cruciferous vegetable, by the way, but it could be a cruciferous vegetable like arugula. Also, nitrates is another benefit from green leafy vegetables. Those help our blood pressure to stay low, and then they also help with the flexibility of our blood vessels too. Um, and then, of course, vitamin K that helps us clot our blood too. And next slide. And we talked about CoQ10. Next slide. And then, of course, there's other vegetables. We always say eat the rainbow because they have different, they represent different antioxidants. You know, every color itself is a different antioxidant as well. So very important to make it more diverse as far as what you're eating. Another thing about vegetable, one of my favorites are mushrooms. This is probably one of my top 3 things to eat. Mushrooms are a great booster of our immune system. They help with our natural killer cells. They also help with identifying what's good and what's bad in our bodies. So preventing autoimmune as well is one of the benefits with mushrooms. And then one other thing is ergothioneine. It's an antioxidant that mushrooms make the most of. And these ergothioneines are one of the only ones that can go inside our mitochondria to repair damages and also prevent damage. So quite important because we need energy to make our cells do their job. And so if energy is one thing that we lack of, then we need to eat mushrooms every day. I recommend a 1/4 cup a day. And if you don't like mushrooms, then do the mushroom powder. That also works well as well. My favorite mushrooms would be maitake and shiitake mushrooms. They're one of the most studied mushrooms as well for working with cancer treatment or also for preventing cancer as well. Maitake is a little more crunchy, so if you don't like the slimy part of mushrooms, then that would be a good one. I like to put salt, pepper, garlic, and Parmesan, make it crunchy, make some mushroom tacos, so that makes it more yummy. Shiitake is kind of more like a spongy kind of feel to it, so I like to chop them in tiny, tiny pieces and then mix it with all of my recipes, so then I'll have mushrooms in my recipes all the time. And next slide. Another thing that I would use a lot is microgreens, microgreen arugula, microgreen broccoli. These are microgreen cruciferous vegetables. They're teeny tiny, and you can just put it in almost all of your recipes, and it will just wilt like spinach, and then now you've got cruciferous vegetable in your recipe. So I don't tend to change people's recipes. I tend to add to it, and that way you don't feel overwhelmed of like, well, how am I gonna cook all this stuff? But you can just add it to your spaghetti or to your picadillo or your soups, right? So then that will power that up as well. Okay, skin, green and yellow vegetables are really good for preventing wrinkling or decreasing wrinkling. And then red and yellow fruits and vegetables are good for making your skin glow as well. Another tidbit would be the yellow juice around the tomato seeds are actually really good for your heart and prevents heart attack or stroke. Next slide. We talked about mushrooms. Next slide. Next slide. Beets and spinach have been studied as well because of those nitrates. They're actually really good for maximizing our oxygen use and building endurance, and then also lowering exertion needs whenever you're exercising. So they did a study on athletes, and those cyclists that eat beets or spinach before doing the competition, they lasted longer. And then divers, they lasted 30 seconds longer underwater than those who didn't eat any beets or spinach. That's a long time, 30 seconds. Next slide. Okay, fruits, berries. Berries are our top fruits They have the most antioxidants, and so they're our top fruits here in the U.S. And they have something called anthocyanins, which is an antioxidant that's really good from head to toe. So I recommend eating berries every day, at least half a cup, preferably maybe like a cup would be really, really good. And they help with our brain function, cognitive function, our emotions as well. Um, Antihistamines, anti-allergies, like anything, our stomach lining, intestinal lining, they protect our stomach lining, intestinal lining. So anything you think of, berries can be very beneficial for that. Next slide. So they did studies, and uh, those who ate sugar by itself versus those who ate sugar with berries, and even nuts as well. They found that it doesn't cause, when you eat them with berries, it doesn't cause sugar spike or insulin spike. You slow down the absorption of sugar into your bloodstream, and so then it doesn't cause the sugar spike and insulin spike like it would if you ate the processed sugar on its own. They also did a study with sugar water versus oranges as well. And while the processed sugar cause oxidative stress and also lowered your vitamin E levels, um, and and cellular damage, the oranges actually helped with again preventing sugar spike and insulin spike, and then it didn't lower down your, actually it increased your antioxidant capacity as well. So calories, we don't just count calories because it's all about nutrient dense calories as well. It's not, and you could still cause damage to your body even though you're eating such low calorie foods versus with the nutrient dense calories, it will actually help you do better. Next slide. Next slide. So tidbits, cherries are anti-inflammatory that can help with gout. Cherries also drops inflammatory levels, and they also have melatonin. So they recommend eating like 10 cherries at bedtime. Goji berries are full of lutein and zeaxanthin, and those are really good for the eyes. Corn is one of those foods that people are saying, there's nothing in corn, you don't have to eat it. Actually, they do have a lot of things like fiber and lutein and zeaxanthin that's really good for our vision, and then of course anti-cancer and anti-diabetic properties as well. Next slide. So eat 4 cups of fruits a day as much as possible. One of those should be berries. Grapes is one of my favorite things to eat as well. They have resveratrol on their skin, and resveratrol is something that boosts our metabolism. And people are saying, they have so much sugar in there, don't eat it because it's going to make you gain weight. Actually, it's the opposite. It makes you lose weight because of the resveratrol on the skin. I eat probably 2-3 cups of grapes every day. Next slide. Okay, so 2 kiwi fruits a day is really good for us. If you can eat them, I'm allergic, so I can't eat them. But it's very good for the stomach lining and intestinal lining. It has mucin in there that coats it. For those who have IBS or any colon issues, this is a good one to eat. It also helps with reducing the number of days you have a cold, very good for that. And then also help with a good quality sleep, a good night's sleep. Next slide. Citrus fruits like oranges are really good for preventing cellular damage or DNA damage, and also boost DNA repair. Within 2 hours of consuming it, DNA becomes significantly more resistant to damage. You hear also doctors saying a lot not to eat grapefruits with certain medications, but that's because you keep the medication longer in your system. So maybe talk about lessening the dosage rather than not eating grapefruits, because grapefruits are really good for us. People who eat dried fruits tend to be less overweight, obese, and have slimmer waistline and less abdominal obesity. Again, opposite of what people are saying. They're saying, it has so much sugar, but it also has fiber and antioxidants in there. So please don't stop eating dried fruits. Next slide. Whole grains. Whole grains are wild rice, quinoa, oatmeal, whole grain bread, brown rice, black rice, red rice, very, very important to us. And so Again, it counteracts that high protein, low carb um, diet that people are recommending. It's so important. This is one of the things that I find are missing a lot in people's diet is whole grains, and they contain fiber, they contain iron, potassium, calcium, magnesium, selenium, copper, all the things that nuts and seeds would have as well, and legumes would have as well. But they do have things like saccharides, like fructooligosaccharides, that are really important for our good gut germs. We have 100 trillion good germs in our body, and we need them. We need to feed them. And so they can make things for us called. So you have the prebiotics, which is the food for the probiotics, the good germs, and then they make postbiotics, which are important to us. So we got butyrate, acetate, propionate. Those are the most important ones that they make for us, and they help us with controlling our metabolism, our blood pressure, our sugar, all kinds of things. So it's really important that we feed them. And so whole grains are one of their favorite foods, and we need to make sure that we're eating them. Um, Red rice is one of the things that has the nutrients that people use to make one of the common um, cholesterol medicine, the statins. And so, if we can avoid having to take medicine, then let's just eat the whole grain, right? So, I would recommend 1.5 cup a day. Um, one slice of bread is going to equal half a cup. There are breads that say they're whole grains that are not whole grains. So be very cautious. When you look at the nutrient facts or nutrition facts, look at the carbohydrates divided by fiber. It should equal 5 or less. So one of those would be Dave Killer's bread, 21 whole grain. And see, that's my favorite bread. There's also ones called Carbonauts. This has 14 grams of fiber in 15 grams of fiber in one slice. That's amazing. But find the bread that you like, that you would want to eat, because if you're not going to eat it, then it doesn't work either, right? So find the ones that you like. Um, and, um, and very important that we eat them as well. Next slide. So yeah, whole grains reduces the risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, stroke, obesity, and reduce risk of dying from inflammatory diseases. People who eat whole grains tend to live longer lives, independent of other dietary and lifestyle factors. And again, it brings down all these inflammatory pathways that are in our body. Our body is so complicated. The more I learn about our body, the more I'm in awe of God, because how can you not believe in God with how detailed our body is? It's amazing. Next slide, please. Okay, gluten-free diet can cause overgrowth of harmful bacteria in the intestines. So if if you don't have celiac or you don't have gluten intolerance, then eat gluten, because it is one of the foods that our microbiome eats. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. So, very important. Whole grains versus refined grains, right? If you've turned it into flour, even if you use the whole grains, it's no longer whole grain. And so the fiber is now pretty much gone. It's because it's refined, and so now we can absorb it fast rather than slowing down our absorption of sugar. So it's very important that you add whole grains in your things. So that's why Dave Killer's bread, whole grain, 21 whole grain seed works well, because they have whole grains on top of the bread, right? And so that adds fiber to the bread versus the one that says whole grain, but then it's also already refined. I like to add chia seeds or flax seeds into anything whole grain stuff. Like, for example, white rice. White rice increases the risk for diabetes and heart disease versus the wild rice, the colored rice. You could always add, as you transition into more whole grain kind of rice, you can add quinoa, or you can add wild rice into your white rice. Then you can add more fiber into that. Eventually, that's how I transitioned when I heard about white rice. I started mixing it half and half with black rice, and then I found some jasmine brown rice, and now I do half a cup of quinoa with half a cup of jasmine brown rice with a cup of wild rice. So that's 2 cups total with 5 cups of water to make it really soft. And I don't even eat white rice anymore unless I'm going out. Next slide. And so this is all about the microbiome. Oats contain a unique class of anti-inflammatory compounds called avenanthromyces. Those are responsible for the odor and flavor of oats, which is also have the ability to relieve skin itching and irritation, and also may potentially help with cancer treatment. Next slide. And oats are liver protective. Again, white rice increases risk of diabetes by 17%, while brown rice drops the risk by 16%. Barley and oats drop it even more by 36%. 3 portions a day lowers risk of heart attacks by 15% and stroke by 25%, also lowering risk of diabetes, heart disease, weight gain, and colon cancer. Yes, so that's another benefit is the whole grains actually reduces our stomach weight as well. Go ahead and next slide. So flax seeds and chia seeds. Again, another one. My top 3 of things that I tell my patients, my clients to eat is cruciferous vegetables, and then the mushrooms, and then flax seeds or chia seeds. In half a cup of flax seeds or chia seeds, you'll have enough iron, potassium, calcium, magnesium, selenium, copper, B1, B3, B6, manganese, phosphorus, lutein, zeaxanthin. The list goes on and on about the benefits of the flax seeds and chia seeds. It's like a multivitamin, multimineral in itself. And then it has tons of omega-3s. Omega-6 to omega-3, our ratio should be 1 to 1 or 2 to 1. Right now in the US, we're at 16 to 1 to 20 to 1. We are missing a lot of omega-3s. So flax seeds and chia seeds have a ton of omega-3s. So half a cup a day is what I recommend. And people are going to say, oh, it's a lot. People are typically recommending 1 to maybe 2 or 3 tablespoons. But in calculating all the vitamins and minerals and proteins and things like that, half a cup is definitely a really good amount. I've been doing half a cup of flax and chia seeds for the last 3 years, and it's been an amazing healer for me and for my clients and patients as well. This is a big one as far as anti-inflammation. Again, chronic inflammation is a big issue here, and so we want to stop that inflammation. And then it also has, in half a cup, about 25 grams of fiber. Fiber is another one that we're missing. We're averaging about 14 to 16, and we should be at minimum of 25 grams, but really 50 to 100 grams of fiber, which is where we were in the old days, right? So very important that we're increasing our fiber. So having a half a cup of this will put us at least the minimum amount that we need at 25 grams. And then it also has the proteins. Flax seeds only has 8 out of 9 of the essential amino acids, but chia seeds has all 9 essential amino acids that we need to eat. We make a lot of proteins, but these are the 9 amino acids that we actually do not make, so we have to eat them. And chia seeds has all of them, and then the flax seeds is missing lysine. So I recommend to do that. I usually make my 32-ounce bottle with half a cup of chia seeds, and then I'll put, well, you could do just water, but I'll put like coconut water, or I found this juice, natural juice at Whole Foods. It's called 365 Mango Passion Fruit that only has 10 grams of sugar in a cup, which is pretty good for a juice. And then I'll put the rest water, and it's my chia boba. And so don't use tapioca pearls, not very healthy, but chia, oh my goodness, super healthy and super yummy. I do have my patients try a lot, and they tend to like it. So if you want to try some, feel free to come and try this later on. So chia seeds, this is very easy to make, or you can make smoothies. I have my Esteliz smoothie that I tell everybody to make, and it's 1 cup of blueberries frozen, a cup of chopped kale, This I get at Sprouts. They also have it at Whole Foods, and so then it's ready to go. And then a quarter teaspoon of turmeric. Turmeric is one of those amazing spices that are anti-inflammatory, but also a huge anti-cancer. The cancer cells has their own self-destruct mechanism, which they can turn off, but then turmeric has something that can turn it back on. So that's pretty cool to have all the time in your body. And then a half a cup of flax seeds. Now, the other thing with flax seeds is you do have to buy them whole. Don't buy them ground, because once it's ground, it's exposed to air, and then it can go bad really quickly with the omega 3s. So buy them whole, and then grind them, and then consume it within 24 to 48 hours of grinding them.
Question.
Yeah.
Your kale, is it frozen?
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you could certainly argue like, the raw and fresh produce would have more benefits, yes, but maybe 15% you lose. So if you're eating a cup, that's pretty good. Yeah. Whatever is easier is best, because then that's the way you consume them. If you make it too complicated for yourself, you might, say, too tired for this. And so make it easier and more doable for you. Yeah. All right, next slide. Next slide. And next slide. Next slide. Next slide.
Quick question.
Yeah, next slide.
Smoothie.
Uh-huh.
If you're gonna grind your flax seeds, but you're putting it in a smoothie, like in a Vitamix or something, and it's already gonna grind it, can you just throw whole ones in there and just
Absolutely.
skip
Yeah.
a step?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I do myself. Is I, put it in the bottom usually, and they will grind it really well. And so a quarter cup of nuts or seeds, really, really important to eat them, because they actually help us with a lot of things. And again, half a cup is what I recommend as far as chia seeds and flax seeds. And don't let it stop you from eating other nuts as well, because they all have their own benefits too. Sesame seeds is really good for detoxification with their sesamines inside it. Good one to, if you're going to drink alcohol, good one to eat sesame seeds before you drink alcohol as well. And yeah, very protective of us, lots of like anti-cancer, but also they're really good for mental health. Um, with nuts and seeds, they have things like tryptophan that helps become serotonin, which then helps us with our emotions. So very good to eat all the time. Next slide. Global burden of disease study says lack of nuts and seeds is third leading dietary risk factor for death and disability, more than processed meat consumption, and 50 times more than all drug overdose. So this really tells us that it's more important to put in the nutrients that we need rather than focusing too much on taking out the bad stuff. It's important, but it's even more important to put in the nutrients that we need. And next slide. Nuts are associated with slimmer waist as well. Women eating 2 handfuls of nuts a week is equal to 4 hours of jogging effect on extending life. You can, if you eat a quarter cup of nuts or seeds 5 days a week, you can potentially increase your life by 2 years, Lord willing, right? And increases your metabolism and burns more fat. In one study, 20 gram versus 31 gram body fat with walnuts as well. Next slide. Okay, legumes. Legumes are black beans, black eyed peas, lentils, chickpeas, edamame, tofu as well is another good one. We should be eating a cup and a half a day, and if you're vegan, should be 3 cups a day because of your protein needs. So very important that if you're a vegan, please also focus on your protein intake, because if you have too little, then that won't be good for us. Next slide. So they have calcium, zinc, iron, B vitamins, magnesium, potassium. Try not to drink tea with them as much as possible, because that actually prevents you from absorbing the iron as well. Very important for sugar control, insulin regulation, cholesterol, blood pressure, and then slimming the waistline as well. So the whole grains, the nuts and seeds, and the legumes, they have a lot of similar benefits, lots of fibers as well. What makes the legumes extra special and worth not missing out on is a prebiotic called galacto-oligosaccharides. So another one that the good gut germs really need in order to make the things that we need. So very important to eat them as well. Um, we're supposed to, they did a study on 11,000 people and tested 15,000 poops in the world. And they found that the healthiest people have the most diverse microbiome. And they ate 30 to 40 different plants a week. Now, how do we do that? That sounds like a lot. Okay, so they said that different kinds of apples counts as different plants. Different color quinoas counts as different plants. So, whew, that makes it a little bit easier. Teas also counts, spices also count. So again, spice up your food with oregano, basil, turmeric, anything that you like, and put it in your food. It doesn't really change the taste of your recipe by much. And so those are easy ways to add, more variety of plants. Yes.
On the legumes, do you recommend doing like dried beans and cooking them yourself, or canned okay? Like,
Again, make it easy on yourself. Ice canned and just rinse it off. And yes, totally doable. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Don't make it so much work for you. If it's a matter of like what's gonna be able to go inside your body, and so canned is totally fine. Yeah. Yeah. So teas are extra special as well. I went to New Zealand. I'm like, how do these people live so long? And I mean, they still eat meat and everything, and but they do eat a lot of plants. Their soil is very healthy. They're very strict about their soil, and also how what they feed the animal products as well. So they're quite organic. But they drink tea all day long. Tea in the morning, tea. We have tea time midday, mid morning, and then lunch, and after lunch tea, and then mid afternoon tea, and then tea at dinner, and then tea after dinner. I'm like, all right, this makes a lot of sense. It has so much antioxidants, lots, way more than the vegetables. And so again, with the free radicals that we constantly have, and our superoxide dismutase doing 1 million free radicals per second, then that makes a lot of sense that teas would have tons of antioxidants that will help us a lot. So, tea, dandelion tea, white tea, ginger tea, any tea that you can think of, as long as the ingredient says just the tea, the plant itself, then all is fair game. And mix and match in my coffee right now, which is over there. I put dandelion tea and white tea in my coffee. Dandelion tea is very protective of our liver, our bladder, all kinds of things. Good prebiotic for the good gut germs, and so many benefits with dandelion tea. And then white tea is the other one. White tea are baby green teas, and they have twice as much as epic gallocatechin gallate that green tea has. So they did a study of 41,000 people, even those people who've already had a heart attack, and those who drank 7 green teas a day reduced the risk of death of all causes by 61%. Green tea. So white tea is twice as powerful, so 3.5 white teas. But at least even one, right? One can definitely give you some benefits. So that's what I put in my coffee. But again, mix and match white tea with dandelion tea and chai tea. Have fun with it. See which one you like together. They have already mixed concoctions that you can find at like Amazon, and those would be really good to drink.
so do you make your tea before you make your coffee and then just add it together?
Oh, so make the coffee, right? And then I put the tea in the coffee and then leave it there.
Just a tea bag?
Just a tea bag, yeah. Yeah, if you like to see my coffee, they come and
Okay.
yeah. They're in there. My husband sometimes help me with getting ready in the morning, and he'll automatically put that in there, and so he's trained for that one. Any other questions?
If you add sugar to the tea, is that purpose?
So, great question. I prefer like maple syrup or honey. The glycemic index actually is much lower than a regular sugar. Yeah. But if you have to have it, again, to get the benefits of the antioxidants from the teas, otherwise you wouldn't drink it, then please drink it with the sugar. Yeah. Yes.
Is it true that you need to have black pepper for your body to absorb turmeric properly?
Yes, that would be one of them. Yeah, to help it. But even if you didn't, you do have other benefits with that in the intestinal lining. But it's just not black pepper that helps absorb it. You know, it's just one of the things that are out there to say it helps absorb the nutrients. But there are other things besides black pepper that can do it. But yes. Any other questions? I think we can end there. But again, 5 food groups: the fruits, vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, and legumes, and then power up with teas and spices as well, and that will help a lot with detoxing, with supplying the needs of making energy, with making sure your cells work really well, your hormones are connecting and communicating well, and the transportation of the hormones as well. Your immune system is better for it. Is the structure of the cells, the structure of all the things that is involved in making your body is there as well. Now, if you have a chronic illness, you need to give yourself time to heal. Just as much as it took time to get to where you are, it takes time for your body to heal. We make 3 ounces of our body new every day. And so it takes about 1 to 3 years to heal our body really well. And so very important to give yourself time to heal. So you may not feel a difference today, maybe not in 2 weeks, although some people feel a difference in a couple of weeks. But a lot of times, 1 to 3 years is a good amount of time to heal well. Any other questions? Thank you so much for having me.